What's up, everybody? It's Max from the Signal Bar Method. It's May 12th, 2026, 5:57 p.m. And I am doing this public video for you guys. And it's been a little while since I have done a public video, but I really don't mind doing them from time to time. I could even make it a more regular thing, like a weekend edition, you know what I mean? I may start doing that. I've had thoughts of doing it, and it's definitely gonna possibly become a more consistent reality, doing the public videos, because the more I think about it, I'm like, I'm not giving away my call outs, and I do a lot more updates, just like a ridiculous amount of updates for my subscribers, and the call outs and everything. And obviously you're not getting my call outs, you're not seeing exactly when I'm getting in or where my stop loss is, and the individual cryptos I search through and sift through, a long list of cryptos and futures contracts of all different kinds, whether it's the currencies or energy, indices, metals, whatever it is. There are a lot of things I cover now and do call outs for, and that we've had spectacular, insane call outs for this year. I mean, this year has been absolutely spectacular as far as call-outs go. I have had I've had just insane call-outs in the past. I think my biggest one to date is probably PayPay, but it may have been gold or silver. PayPay would have been back in 2024, back in February 24th, 2024, I had this PayPay call. Ironically, this was a call out back then where I was just looking at this on my phone. I hadn't even pulled a big chart up on my computer. I was just looking at my phone. I was only seeing like more recent price action, you know what I mean? I wasn't really looking at this big picture. I didn't have the trend line drawn. I just saw the immediate setup and I liked it. And I was questioning myself that night at dinner, and I was like, you know what, guys, I'm getting nervous about this trade. I think I'm going to call it back, and I usually never do that. Unless something really, really doesn't look good nowadays. It's like, yeah, I get out early sometimes if something's coming against me, or it just like really doesn't look good, and whatever. Like that happened last night. I got out early out of a bunch of different trades. I just didn't like what I was seeing, and it was a good call. But going back here, there's no way current day I would ever call this back, ever, not ever. But the initial risk was something like 13%, but we only took heat of heat on the trade of about 2.9%, so not even 3% heat that we took. It was like next to nothing, right? From entry, it ended up running 640+% up to 700+% maximum profit potential from entry, with negative heat on the trade of under 3%. Like we never took a drawdown or an open loss of more than 3% on that trade. It never came against us more than 3%. And every daily low held for most of the way up to here, and then they pulled a little scumbag move off this inverted green, grabbed some stops, rallied it back up, generated some commission for the exchanges, like the crypto exchanges like to do so very often. Could not be any more obvious what the crypto exchanges are doing to generate commission on a regular basis. If you know anything about reading a chart, it's just dead fucking obvious, right? It's just dead obvious. So, and whoever else is involved, but the exchanges are making all the commission when stops are hit. Fees are generated, commission is generated for the exchanges. So they get rich. And, phenomenal trade, right? Phenomenal trade. But this year so far, and we've had plenty of tons of spectacular trades since I started doing the call outs like a couple years ago or whatever it's been now, right? But this year we've had some extraordinary calls. So I called gold short or silver short. It was one or the other, but they both moved together, so it was kind of your pick. I called it at the end of Thursday the 29th, a short at market, stop above there. And I zoomed in that day, and I was tweeting out step by step every 15 minutes after the close. And, was within the high of the day that I was watching it on a 15-minute chart, if I can go back that far, on gold. And had the pattern drawn out and everything, and I was tweeting out, I'm like, okay, this has got to be it, this is probably it. And sure enough, it was the top 15-minute candle, and zoomed in even more to a 5-minute, and said, this is probably it, this is probably the high of the day. And it ended up being the high of the day, or was it up here? Sorry. Because we dropped, and then we had the hanging man, and then we collapsed, right? Is this right? January 29th. This is evening, January 29th, right? Am I crazy right now? Can you work for me, TradingView? 30th. The 30th, so we're looking at the 30th, so my bad. It's been a little while since gold had the major breakdown. Looking for the 30th, my guy. Was it here? No, because we went into the 30th back here. So this is where I was at, and we were just I was zoomed in on a 15-minute, and I was watching this, and I was calling it out picture by picture and step by step, and literally was shorting it on the 15-minute high. Caught a lot of this initial drop, and I think I got out way too early. I caught a big chunk of the drop, but I was very foolish on the trade. Basically, horrible management on my behalf, but the call out was spectacular. It ended up being like the biggest drop in. Can TradingView just zoom in on where I was for starters? Like, they need to fix that. Phenomenal trade. It was like one of the biggest drops in metals history. It was the biggest drop in silver's history since like 1983 or something. Literally like the biggest drop in silver history, pretty much. And we may have had a trade here, not sure, but we 100% our next call out. I think it was our next call out, official call out on gold and silver, and it was right here. And it just ended up being such a spectacular call out. We got short at market or on the break of the low, barely pulled back, tight little stop, and just magnificent risk to reward. Like monster drop for gold, phenomenal trade, absolutely just stellar trade, and like unbelievable, right? So, and then we also had a bunch of different crypto call outs. Back when we had the 3-week inverse hammer up here. Sorry, the chart has a bunch of these lower time frame candles on it, but I'll just go to like XRP as an example. Still really messy with lower time frame and old trend lines, so I just like to keep them on there. Probably need to get rid of some, but I have a bunch of, I could go to a different pair. But this was the candle. We had 3-week candle call outs, and we caught this drop on the break about there. We caught it all the way down. Spectacular trade, right? It was a 3-week call out, but typically I like to trade the daily candles. So we've had a lot of really great call outs. There's been, just a ton of daily call outs along the way. As you can see, like XRP is a prime example. It's actually not that good of an example because it kind of is, it kind of isn't, because there are a lot of cryptos that have actually gotten up and put in decent legs higher. But XRP is just, it's an absolute piece of shit most of the time. But when you look at ADA, like it had a decent leg up. When you look at Solana, it had a decent leg up. You know what I mean? There's a handful out there that have done well. The whole AI crypto space has done really well. You know, obviously like Zcash or ZEC has done very well. It still is managing to go higher right now off that green daily, off the 8 exponential, 10 simple moving averages. You know, you can't make this shit up, you know. Even XMR, out of the breakout here, called it there, saw a big move. You know what I mean? Little pennant, breakout off that green, nice move. Still, even off the second move up, still manages to get up higher and move up higher. You know, these things put XRP to shame. Yet we've been in it for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, whatever it's been now for most of us, a lot of us out here, you know? So XRP is not the best example, but it is a good example of, you know, that 3-week breakdown, because pretty much all the other cryptos had an inverse 3-week hammer, and it wasn't just a random hammer. It was like 1, 2, breaking back down, pull back into the 8, 10 as they're rolling over through the 20. The blue is the 20 SMA, the 10 is the 10 SMA is the green line, and the 8 exponential is the orange line. You can see those are rolling over perfectly through the 20 here as we pulled back into those, got rejected, come back down. And this was also at the beginning of the year, and a lot of cryptos out there had an inside red. XRP is such a piece of trash that it actually did not have a perfect inside red. It actually had a lower low, but it was the same price action. Like we got this initial pump at the beginning of the year, and we had a bearish yearly, like all other crypto out there had a bearish yearly. And that's why I was saying publicly, like, we're not just going to go higher off that shit. That's not a candle you typically just go higher off of. Not even typically, even after you get the drop, if you get back up, you typically don't go higher off of a candle like that the same time frame. So I knew that this entire year was probably going to be bearish, especially going into the end of the year where we couldn't get up. Oh, I'm sad, little crypto, I can't get up. You know, what do you think is going to happen when you get an inverse red hammer doji after a move up, right? You know, like dude, it's so simple at the end of the day, guys. Like most of the time you get the right candle, you move. And this is a yearly candle, right? So now we've got the drop, we've come back up. The year still has 7 months, 19 days left. You know, at best, I've told my subscribers, I don't expect XRP to break the all-time high this year. Not against that yearly candle, no. I'm just an odds-based guy. I have a long-term bag of XRP. Am I happy about it? No, I'm not. The amount of opportunity out there in the crypto space trading is through the damn roof. It's a trader's paradise. Like there's been so much opportunity in so many other cryptos, right? And don't tell me, well, sell me your crypto then. Every time somebody tells me that, they're dead fucking wrong about the timing, right? Like it ends up going lower and you look like a fucking fool. You look like a fool. You sound like a fool when you say shit like that. What are you going to send me cash and I'll send you my XRP? They're like, it's like the supply, like so much of it on the exchanges. Like, and you say some shit like that, you know, to make yourself feel better. Like I don't have a long-term bag. It's like the same comment as, oh, you don't vote, so your voice doesn't matter. Like you're not living here. Like you're not paying taxes. Like you're not, you know, like you don't have responsibilities here. It's like, it's the most idiotic thing like somebody can say. It doesn't make any damn sense. They're just saying it to make themselves feel better or know what you hold, or, oh, you're not an investor, blah, blah, blah. Even as an investor, you're taking a trade. You're buying it to eventually sell it later. You took the fucking trade. It's a longer term trade, right? Period. Like it is a trade. You're trading cash for XRP. You're just like, you have no calculated risk. You're just buying in. You're hoping and praying it goes up. You're basically gambling. It's fucking out of control, dude, when people say shit like that. So I knew XRP and I knew crypto were probably not going to do well. And I immediately sold like 30 to 40% of my long-term bag going into the end of the year, looking for at least a little bit of a retracement at the beginning of the year, which we got. right, to sell that. And then I ended up using it to just trade more. And I have since bought back more XRP on that dump. It just didn't make any sense to me to just be like, I'm not going to sit through another fucking year of XRP not doing anything, and getting pissed off. Oh, but the Riddlers say this. You don't even know who the fuck they are. And no one's been right about the date or the time or anything. Back in November of 24, when we had this beautiful technical setup that I called out perfectly for my subscribers, we had this beautiful 3-month hammer candle after all this consolidation and tightening here. And it wasn't the first time. Like, XRP had a great shot, but you can see, like, on the 3-month, the 10 was above the 8 exponential here. It wasn't really perfectly right on the moving averages. But even by this month in January of 24, like, the 8 was coming up. It really did have a pretty good chance of getting a move up off this. It was a pretty nice, I don't want to say setup, but it was a pretty nice candle sequence, right here. Even this inside green in October, that 3-month, not bad. Could have moved off that. Then January, this kind of inside hammer doji, could have moved up off that. Didn't want to do it. No. Scumbag activity. Clear the lows, get a hammer, and then fire it. And not just clear the lows, you even cleared the lows all through back here, going a little bit deeper right before they came up. And where was that low? 38.34, right? And then all the way up to 339 or 366, of course, right? In July of 25, right? But we had the 3-month, and guess what else we had? We had a 3-week hammer, and I called that out too. And it's pretty beautiful. It was really tight. There were other things I was looking at. I was watching this trend line through here. It was getting very, very tight in here. And you could see what they were doing off this trend line here, clearing the lows right before they take this shit off, making it look like it was going to crash, and I'm sure people were buying this level, clearing the stops, bringing it up, clearing them one last time, and then sending it right through this trend line, right? And look, I'm not going to get too deep into the XRP chart, but that's how it went. I had that call out there. That was a spectacular call out. And when we zoom in even further into that period of time, there was a beautiful daily along the way, a couple of them. This daily right here on the 9th of November. And on one of the pairs, when was that? I swear one of the pairs was actually 589. It was, I don't know if it's this pairing. It's on one of these time frames. I know it is. It might be the 3-week, and I don't know if it's this pair or this exchange pair. God, TradingView, fix your shit, dude. Why use? It's ridiculous. Or is that my problem? I mean, this was 5887, but on one of these pairs, the close is 5889. It might be on the TradingView index pair. If we go here, I can't remember. Oh, we're on that right now. It's not that one then. Is it on the BitTrue or Binance pair? No. I can't remember. It's on the Coinbase one, I think. Yeah, there it is. Open right here. That 3-week period of time. Open. 0.5889. You can see it right here. Right? It opened at that. That fucking 3-week candle. Boom. Right? So, look, I'm not saying the Riddlers or whatever, the anonymous Riddlers. You have no idea who they are. I mean, it's pretty obvious who they probably are, right? But at the end of the day, like, these people are taking orders. They're Kabbalist prostitutes, they're cultists, whatever. I don't care. And it really doesn't matter. The point is, like, you could see it in the chart. You had a 3-month, you had a 3-week, and you have this gorgeous looking daily candle right here. And every single daily low held the majority of the way up. Every green daily low held all the way up. Gorgeous move. And then we sat around, chopped around for a while, set up here finally. Couple decent shorts in here, maybe a short there, a short there, possibly a quick short there, and really nothing in here until we started to have this setup. And then I called that one long, and obviously I called this daily long. And that was the last little bit that we got out of such a multi-year setup, the best that XRP could give us out of all this supposed institutional adoption, which I guess we haven't seen, right? The best we could do is basically back to all-time highs from 2017. It was literally pretty much a slap in our fucking faces, right, as long-term holders. But if you know how to trade, there was obviously a ton of opportunity in the chart, the 3-month, the 3-week, and especially this daily candle, right? This daily candle with this little high base pennant type structure up here, boom. And this continuation candle. And the only reason I might touch something like this, since this was a red hammer, and it was not the first move into these moving averages, this was the first move. Technically, this was back here, but it was short-lived. It was the very beginning. Okay, we're moving. This is really kind of like the very first substantial move into the moving averages. This is like a second or third, depending on how you want to look at it. Getting up off of a red, that's exhaustive. There was no divergence though, and it ended up moving, and it gets this kind of continuation like candle right here. That's all you can play pretty much at this point, unless you're playing this red candle and just hoping it goes. And it did. The lows held, it kept going. Beautiful opportunity right here. They give you this gorgeous looking candle on the break of a trend line on the back test as the 8 and the 10 are rolling up with the 20 right under it. Can you fucking dig it? Huge move. Huge move. And for me to even call this candle was risky, and it still got up, even though it came all the way back. And I don't think it cleared that low. It did not. Got damn close. And then we had our second call out, and just a huge move, guys. Nice move. Not a huge move, but a nice move. Not bad, right? So we've had so many great call outs along the way, guys. I'm just kind of pointing this out and how crazy it can be. But and then this call out, obviously, I did like a 10-minute long video on top of the call out for the subs. I'm like, guys, this is like a super rare opportunity. XRP likes to do this kind of thing before it pops. You know, we have such a beautiful setup right now. You know, XRP's probably got a fantastic chance to move, could move a lot, had a lot of consolidation in here. Looked like more of a descending wedge with the exception of this jab right here, which is not really right as far as a move up, but it was just clear as day with the moving averages rolling up, all in sync, all perfect alignment, perfect position, perfect color, perfect fake out candle, perfect level, everything about it was perfect. And you can just see just this beautiful move up. Ends up getting an inside kind of drop pop off of green, inside red hammer. You know that's not right. It exhausts the upside. You get a double top, and it just crashes down. You know what I mean? There are some good looking trades in here. I could spot them out all over the place. You know what I mean? There's one there, there's one there, there's one there, there's one here, there's maybe one there, short lived, there's one there, it's very short lived, there's one there, there's one there, there's one there, there's one here, there's maybe one there if you're okay with the color. It's after the double top right there. You know, huge bloodbath. We know what happened October 10th, where the exchanges suddenly went down. Nobody could get into their accounts. If you had any leverage on it all, your account is nuked. You know, you don't think that was orchestrated? The crypto exchanges just going down, like everything's just okay? Nothing happened? No one got in trouble? Nothing happened? No one even cares anymore? You don't think that was by chance? That they just went down? You could not trade? You know, the exchanges all went down. Like pretty much every single one of them was down. You don't think that was random? You don't think that was by chance? Right? Was it random? Was it not? Was it coordinated? Was it not? What was it? Pretty nuts, right? XRP went from 280 down to 177, and this is just one pair. If it was a futures contract, I guarantee you it probably went a lot lower. And there were a lot of cryptos that basically went to zero. So it just, you know what I mean? Like and I knew it. I knew a lot of these cryptos, like there were so many out there at the time. I don't even know. You could basically pull almost any single one up. Like Gala is a pretty good example. I knew there were just a huge level. I knew if like things broke, it could get really bad. A lot of cryptos were even worse than Gala. Like they were at lows, like they were down near the lows from like multiple years ago, right? Where if they broke, they're taking out all these swing lows. And I'm like, dude, there's got to be whatever stops are down there. Like they will get taken out and it will be like a snowball effect. And it's like, dude, that much and then all the way back, it's just insane. And these exchanges just go down during that whole thing. It's like, and nothing ever happens, right? So, you know, crazy stuff. But that's like a little glimpse into like what I do. When I do my call outs, it's typically at the end of the day, near the close. Sometimes I do 9 a.m. view because there's a 9 a.m. view close and open as well. So sometimes I do that. But I'm basically just showing people are, you know, subscribing to basically see what I'm doing myself, trading, you know. So I do my call outs and that's what I'm taking. Those are trades I'm taking. And it's been pretty phenomenal. I'm not right all the time, right? I'm just not right all the time. I feel like I definitely can be if I'm patient enough to wait for really good looking candle setups and stuff like that. I feel like I can basically be right like 90-something% of the time. It's all about how disciplined I'm being. It's how patient I'm being. Am I willing to wait for the next really good looking trade? Am I willing to wait for just a good looking trade? Am I willing to wait for a mediocre trade? You know, how long am I willing to wait for? And that's just a debate I've had quite a bit with myself. Where I was literally talking to my subs about it today. So let's get into the current day market a little bit, and just talk about a couple things really quick. Just going to talk about crypto really quick and go into Bitcoin first. So Bitcoin, we know what we had back here. And guys, I'm not going to go too in depth, but you know, you can kind of see the way I like to trade, why I think everyone should at least learn how to read price action, right? And how to find everything is when you do that. It's not like, oh, this is a one wave, or this is like an A wave, B wave, C wave, right? Or A, B, C wave, right? Like, you know, it's not so gray area. Or is this an A, B, C, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not really so gray area. It's not even remotely close to gray area. It is extremely defined, right? There's a candle, there's your entry, there's your stop loss. Now you know what you're risking. Now you know what you need to do to get to a 1-to-1, to get to a 2-to-1, to get to a 3-to-1, to get to a 4-to-1, a 5-to-1, a 6-to-1, right? It's not, oh, I think this is a B wave or a C wave. You know what I mean? It's not, oh, we're going to make it to, you know, the 61.8% level on the fib extension. Like, no, this is a candle. This is where we're getting in, or this is where we're getting in. This is where the stop is, or that's where the stop is. Now we know our risk. Now we know where we need to get to for a 1-to-2, a 1-to-3, etc. Right? This is how we trail it. This is how we take profit, so on and so forth. At least that's how I do it, right? That's how I take profit. That's how I set my stop, you know, etc., etc. So, you know, that's it. And again, it's not supposed to be financial advice. I'm just telling you how I trade, right? And I truly believe it is the correct way to trade. You need to learn how to read price action properly, period. You know, even if you're not using the candles for entry and stops or whatever, you still need to know how to learn price action, to read price action, guys. You know, it's one thing to just be able to draw a chart pattern, use a MACD, use fib extensions, whatever. It's a whole nother thing how to be able to read price action and know when it actually looks really good or kind of good or looks mediocre or whatever, right? So this is the daily on Bitcoin, and as I was showing you before, we had like the 3-week inverse hammer back here. That's what we broke down from. They didn't just do that. They were making Bitcoin look like it maybe had like a falling wedge here. You know, you can see that with the, these yellow lines. It kind of looked like a falling wedge. And if that wasn't it, then we're thinking maybe this would be it. And at the time, I did not want to call out shorts on the daily because Bitcoin had an inverse hammer doji that was green, whereas basically all other crypto had it as red. So I'm really disappointed that I didn't call the daily on that. And same with this one, because it was really great risk to reward off that. And even though they pulled a scumbag move with bringing it all the way back up before they dumped it again, it was still great risk to reward. That was easily a 1-to-1, 2-to-1, 3-to-1, maybe 4-to-1 easily, on that candle. And then they gave you a second time to get short. And I was thinking we might get back up, get a green, see like a couple more days before we rolled over. We just broke down and we caught the 3 weeks. So it's all good. Like we caught majority of the entire move. But I'm just disappointed in myself that I didn't call that I didn't call that. So we see this big move, and to me, this was like a cup and handle. It wasn't a head and shoulders. It wasn't really a double top. It was a cup, and it was a handle. And we can see that very clearly on like total, I believe. We have a cup, we have a handle. I believe total 2 is, pretty much the same way. You can see that. And I think total 3 is like the most obvious, if I remember correctly. Maybe not as much on total 3. Let's see, where is it? There it is. It's like you're pulling this trend line up a bit, but it really does look like a kind of cup and handle. The handle maybe not as perfect, but it's like just textbook kind of cup handle breakdown, cup line, right, breakdown. And the measured move for this cup and handle was down to like 53, 54K. And taking this trend line all the way back from like March of 25, April of 25, coming down to the bottom in February of 26, we do have a downward sloping trend line. We have that there, where if we were to drop down here, you can see how close we would be able to get to 53, 54. It would be basically about right there. I'm not saying that's going to for sure happen. I'm just saying I'm pointing that out. And we get down here, and it's just been treacherous behavior ever since out of Bitcoin. There have been trades for sure that we've called out. We've caught a lot of these. Some I didn't make official call outs, but I told them I was getting short, like right here. Other times where we got long, it was just very short-lived, like profit had to be taken in that first day or two. It's just been very choppy, very kind of disgusting price action. Other times where there really was spectacular risk to reward with these smaller candles. Other times where it was dropping off the wrong color, I didn't really like it. We finally get the right color, and it's kind of like our last chance to break down, and we only get maybe a 1-to-1 out of it, and it just is what it is. You got to keep rolling with it. Does a drop pop off the green, last time to maybe roll over, but the moving averages are already trying to roll up. It's a huge trap, and that starts to move back up after we had this jab below the trend line, which we played with here and got back above, kind of tested on the drop and got back above as the 8-10 are rolling up through the 20. Huge trap. And it's been pretty disgusting on the way up. I mean, up off that, okay, I get it, trap, squeeze. Inside, not inside green, but a continuation with a lower low inverted hanging man style candle, gets up off that inverse hammer doji. They just don't want to let it get up, dump off of a green into the 810. It's right back up off of a red. It just doesn't really look right. Inverse red, pull back lower low, inside, not inside, but green candle, drop pop. Green, pretty good looking candle for a pump, especially breaking the highs through here. It does it. There's no continuation. It puts it in inside red. It dumps it right back down. And by then, you can tell like the momentum is starting to wane. You can even see the same formation on the MACD as we had on the monthly if you go back to January at the top of the market. Same thing. Hanging man's kind of shape on the MACD as we went higher here. Beautiful multi-year setup. Either a cup and handle or an inverted head and shoulders, whatever you want to call it here on Bitcoin. Sets up, takes many months. We had a chance off this green hammer, did not take out the high. goes lower, drops off the green, gets back up, holding the 810 as they're rolling up. Last chance here. They put this inside kind of green hammer type thing, just barely cleared that high, and they launched it off that to highs. The best they could give us was like 2 months higher. And this is November of 24 when alts really took off. XRP finally did something decent that month. It only lasted maybe 60 days at best, right? Just pretty pathetic. I know it was a 500 or 600% move, but I mean, we expected so much more out of XRP. And I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm not saying XRP isn't going to go to big, crazy numbers. I'm not saying that. Listen to what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying. Understand what I'm saying, right? So then we get to this trend line coming back from April 21 to November of 21. We hit that. We get rejected. We don't have a divergence yet, but we pull back. We start off of basically off of red, just barely taking out the high. I'll give it a pass, but I know the momentum is getting tired. And we get the same head and shoulder like pattern that we had that I was just showing you, right? We get up here, we get 1, we get 2, there's a red reversal candle, we get it in October, we can't hold up here sideways, we can't do any of it. They dump it in November, they change the look of the yearly candle, and it's basically November inside red, and it's all over. We get the red candle for the year, and I know we're going down, right? We start pumping at the beginning of the year off of an inside red. I know that's not right. I'm telling my subscribers, I'm like, look, this isn't right. We will probably come back down. There's a chance we might even come right back down before the month's over. Sure enough, we do. And within that period of time, we get that inverse 3-week hammer, and we start dropping. And then in February, we continue the bloodbath. And then we come back a bit. We get an inside green, kind of like inverted hammer, inverted hanging man, and we slowly work up off that. And now this month, flat bottom. We didn't even go lower. We have no lower wick. It's just dead flat on the bottom. Open 76,346. Gets down to 76,320. It's flat as hell on the bottom as we come into the 8 exponential. 10 simple moving average just above at $88,000. It's a bear pullback. It's textbook. You know what I mean? I mean, that's what the odds are. Obviously, anything can happen at any moment, guys. Literally, anything can happen at any moment, right? But this is like textbook drop coming back into the 810 as they roll over the 20. It's not bullish. It's not bullish, guys. It's temporarily bullish as we get up here. But by textbook, this is not bullish. It's literally like back here in 22. It's different, but it's the same type of price action. You know, this is kind of like a double top breakdown. There's your sideways action into the 810, the pullback into the 810 as like they're rolling down, about to cross the 20. You get this inside red. There's your setup candle, collapses, right? And instead of like now, this idiotic price action now, this slow grind higher right now, they keep it low. They keep it sideways. They give you a nice inverted kind of hammered style candle, and they keep pushing it lower. They even try and fake people out with this green, but the red monthly highs hold. And then once you're dropping off that green, you best be thinking and know that you are close to a bottom, right? It's been kind of excessive. The drop here, and finally this just last bit of capitulation to the downside. They pump it off a red, that's not right. They get a doji up here, drop pop, hammer, just slowly trying to grind it sideways, pull back into the 8 EMA, 10 SMAs are coming across the 20. Nice, pretty, little, tiny hammer candle, massive risk to reward on any kind of a move higher, and they just send it. Monster risk to reward off that hammer. Huge risk to reward off that hammer, right? And then again, they set us up, they take it off, and that's the best they give you after all this bullshit. That's the best you got. Bitcoin, pathetic. Most of crypto, pathetic. You know, but there is a lot of opportunity in crypto once you know how to read price action and trade properly. You can see that now. I don't know how you can. But this now, what we have, I mean, to me, this is a bear pullback, right? It's textbook. You got a big drop. This is a first pullback into the 8 exponential, 10 simple. The only kind of, I don't know, thing about this is like we did technically kind of pump in at the beginning of the year into the 810 as they were rolling over here, and then we dropped very quickly. It happened just so quick. It's not like we got any sideways worth of months with the setup candle like we did in 22. Like they just dumped it here. And that's the only kind of green potential flag I could give you, is that happened really quick there, right? So is this truly the first pullback to the 8 exponential and 10 simple? Like I really got to say yes, you know what I mean? But that is there, and you need to be conscious of that, right? We did drop off of a green 2 month. That's indicative that we could work back up here. It could happen fast. It could happen before the end of the year. It could happen next year, the year after, but I would be thinking we come back up here at some point. The 3 was down off of a green. The 4 was technically down off a green, although these went higher before the drop. And here's another thing, the 4 month, dead flat on the bottom, pulling back against this red candle. We are in the 8 and the 10 simple moving average here, the 8 exponential, 10 simple. We are at them now, right? A common place where you can see a bounce, you know, no matter the time frame. It is a common place where you tend to see support. You can see that. You can see bounces off the 8 all over the place. The 4 might not be the best example of it, but there are plenty of time frames where it is. There's your 5, down off a green. 6 already had the inverse hammer, just like the yearly did, right? And the 6 did come into the 8, got close to the 10, basically touched the 10 and got back up. We got a month and 18 days left before we get the 6th month. Still plenty of time. The 5 has 18 days, 23 hours left. But again, when you look at that 4, it's dead flat on the bottom, just like the monthly is. We have no lower wick for this current month, which means it largely increases the odds that you could potentially come down still, right? It's not for sure. It's just like something you need to be aware of. Here's the 3 month. This doesn't really look like a bottom to me, just candle-wise. It just doesn't, right? It also doesn't necessarily look like we might be topped out here. I mean, we just opened the 3-week and 2-week candles. And we opened pretty flat. Like we opened 82,210. The high was 82,380. It's pretty flat on the top, you know, and you just had a green 3-week, right? So you could still easily keep going. It's possible, right? But look at where we're at. I mean, you had, you know, if this is a cup and handle or just the trend line in general through here that we broke, we're getting damn close to it, and it's right around 85.5 or 85.400 or 85 even. It's right in that area. It's probably like 85.3. I mean, if we zoom in, we can see it. But where is that? The 8 and the 10 are right there. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying, like, the odds that we're just going to go flying higher here, like some people out there are saying, I just don't fucking see it. You know, like I know when it looks right. I know when it looks right. This looks right. This looks right. That looks right. This looks right, right? You need the candle. The setup needs to be there. The better the looking the candle, even this inside green right here, you know, look at that inverse red hammer after the pop drop. Beautiful setup. I call those unicorns. It's an inverse unicorn. Huge drop. When it looks right, it looks right. I know this candle isn't the right color, but you had a huge level broken. If I pulled a trend line through there, I mean, you can see that, right? Huge breakout, right? Getting above the trend line, pulling back into the 8 and the 10 as they're rolling up. It's hammer style. It dropped off a green. You know, it's not perfect, but I'm sure there's a time frame where it is. And look at this beautiful 2-month continuation hammer taking off there. Gorgeous looking setup. Like if you go through the monthlies, there's going to probably be one that looks semi-right. Look at the 4-month hammer down here. You know what I mean? We don't have that up here. We just don't. I'm not saying we couldn't like keep going, but it's just like it doesn't really look right, in my opinion. It just doesn't. Look at all these red 4 months we got up off of. Red 4 month, red 4 month, red 4 month. We finally come back. Granted, we did it off of a green. Right? So I'm thinking we do come up somehow, some way eventually. If it's quicker, it's quicker. If it's not, it's not. But this is not right. Like up off a red, up off a red, up off a red. It's just not pretty. It's not good looking. Right? Like this, you know, huge move up very quickly, very aggressively. Right? This was like more of a slow grind. And I like the inside candle like this. So I get why it pumped. Right? You have an inside green, it tries to pump again. It's just out of steam. So, look, I'm not saying we can't get up, but I don't think this is pretty, in my opinion, right? And if it does work up, I think it will put in a much prettier candle at some point or another. Like if it was really going to work all the way back up here and we're starting to think, oh, maybe this is a cup and this is a handle and we're all the way up here. Well, at some point along the way, there probably will be a decent looking candle, And I still doubt this is a bottom. It just doesn't really look like a bottom. We just came down pretty quickly and we didn't even come down a second time in this area. To me, this just looks like a bear pullback into the moving averages right as they're rolling down through the 20 simple moving average. Like the 8 and the 10 are rolling right through the 20, And you look at the 3 week and even the volume here, you can see how it just looks like it's going lower with each 3 week candle that we've gone higher. It doesn't even look that good. We are above the 8 and the 10. They are trying to cross, but it's like we're at the area where we could see rejection. Somewhere in here, maybe slightly higher. We got the 20 simple moving average coming down on the 2 week. That's around 89.2, but next week it'll be closer to like 87.8. And then the weekly, here's the other problem. Kind of like a double bottom. We get this beautiful green weekly. It ends up grinding higher as they in the 10 roll up. But then you get this red weekly kind of continuation candle, and it ends up pumping off of it, right? But we're pumping off of a red here. That's not right. And it's also very extremely similar to what we did back in 22, right? Got up off of red. We went slightly higher. And then we came crashing back down, right? I'm not saying that's going to for sure happen again. I'm just saying it's very, very similar to current day. And we are above the 20 simple moving average on the weekly. The 8 and the 10 are literally trying to cross these now, right? But it doesn't mean that this is necessarily 100% for sure that we're bottomed and we're going higher and it's all good and we're going to get a green yearly candle, then we're going to pump in 27. It's not guaranteed, you know what I mean? It's just not guaranteed. Not to mention the green weekly that we dropped off of here, right? And now look at how far we are back up. But so that's the weekly, you know what I mean? It's kind of showing you, hey, we are getting up off of a red, it could be kind of exhaustive to the upside. And then we go to the 3-day. And, we're kind of in this channel and been telling my subs, I'm like, hey, if we get through here, we'll probably see a good size squeeze through here. And we did see a little bit of a squeeze through this trend line here, right? Boom. And we've been holding this trend line ever since. Whether it's the top trend line here or this one all the way through here, we've been holding it ever since. Look at the 3-day candle that we got. We're not only that, we basically started to move off this red down here. We squeezed through this inverse 3-day red here, but it's still up off of a red. Get this inside green, really pretty candle, pump off that. Get this tweezer top inverse hammer doji, red, dump off that into the 8 exponential, and pump off of the red candle there, right? We pumped off this red. So that ain't right either. And you can tell the momentum has really slowed down. It's not a divergence. You have higher high on the MACD, you do, right? But it's still there. You can tell it is losing momentum somewhat. And we're right here. And now we get up off this red, which isn't right. And we come back down, we get this inverse red. And now, current day, right now in the new 3-day that just opened up, they're already trying to push it higher with not much of a lower wick against this inverse red, right? Which is also you're flat on the bottom. What are the odds this is going to come right back down and dump? I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to for sure happen, but if this dumps and you break the 3-day low around 79,843 or 79,840, right? It's going to it's pretty good odds you could see it dump back down into this kind of, bear flag or channel, whatever you want to call it, right? Pretty good odds at that point you could potentially see a drop through here, through here, through here, maybe end up with a red week off that green, then maybe come back, set up on a daily, 3-day, 2-day or whatever, and maybe keep going down, right? If we drop off the weekly this week, it's a green week, so there could definitely be some volatility in here if we really are going to drop back down, and 3-day would likely want to set up just like it did here with a little choppiness as the moving averages roll back down like this, right? And we really take off to the downside. Again, I'm not saying that's going to for sure happen, and you got to take it day by day. Kind of in this market, it's almost kind of difficult not to. Especially in this moment right now. It'd be different if like maybe we're down here, maybe even in here, and I didn't like this 3-day setup, how it got up off that red. It's just not right, guys. I mean, it's just not. But, this thing is working higher. It's squeezed above these trend lines. Shorts are trapped at this very moment. But look at the chaos up here. Have this wonderful squeeze, get all this nasty price action behavior, like gets a red on the 2 just like it had a red on the 3, gets up off that, no, that's not right, comes right back down, now it's up against a red. It's really just chopping sideways where it could be like a high base or a pennant and then work higher off that. And it did technically get the green week, and while it was off of a red weekly and regular view, if you look at 9 a.m. view, like a chart on like BitTrue or something like that, you'll see that the weekly was actually green, just barely green, just like this one was barely red. But it's still there on regular view, like we can see this. And here's the weekly. It almost looks like a 1, 2, and then maybe down. But I know what the weekly looks like. I know, like, yeah, they might try and push this higher. I know we're above the trend line, right? These trend lines coming up, like their shorts are definitely trapped. I would say this needs to set up and at least at a minimum get a green candle that looks half decent to then maybe have a shot of breaking higher. If this just continues to like get up off of red and go, right, which it would be on the 3-day, but that would definitely be way more of a short squeeze with a candle like that did not even make a higher high. And same with the 2-day. I mean, if it got up off that in the next day in 23 hours, I mean, that doesn't look right at all. That could definitely lead to a topping kind of situation. Back here was maybe less obvious, but it was the same thing. Like it broke the weekly high and then it came, or back in 22. But even back in 22, if you look at the 2-day, 3-day kind of situation back then on that same similar weekly chart, it was here, this was it, and you can see it had an inverse hammer, broke that high, then came crashing down. I think on the 3-day it had the same type of deal. There it is, the inverse red hammer, and it was very wedgy. It was very, very wedgy. Whether you drew it from here, or whatever, you could see how wedgy it was kind of getting, just in here. You could see, with the exception of these jabs, these wicks, you could see kind of how wedgy and flaggy it still was, right? Point is, you have the candle right there. On the daily, I don't think it was as obvious back then. You did. You literally had like inverse hammers. Yes, this breaks a high, but it comes down, breaks a low, continues down, little red candle, pop, drop. That's basically your signal bar right there to break this trend line through here, which is a little rough because I had it on a 2-day or whatever. And then however you had your trend line drawn, you could see it coming, right? On the daily, you're able to draw it even a little bit more precise, kind of. You can see the rising wedge within here. It's textbook. I mean, there's no non-touch in this area. It's zigzagging on the way up. It's very tight. It's pretty vertical. It's not too horizontal. It's a rising wedge. You get this candle or this candle. Either or are playable. You see a massive dump. You get like a little bear pullback, bear flag, depends on the time frame you look at. You dump off that. You get a descending wedge here. You dump off that, and that's it, right? Until later down the road where you have a big level and you take out that. And they were dirty with that. But so this is where we're at now on the current daily of Bitcoin. And since everything is basically married to Bitcoin, even worse, I mean, a lot of these alts, some have done really well. Like the AI sector has done really well. Even Solana, ADA have done really well. But cryptos like XRP look like dog shit compared to even Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is in charge. It's still leading. Everything's married to it. Everything follows it. It's pretty lame, right? But it is what it is. And this is where we're at. So we're still coiling sideways. They can still push this higher, especially if they put in a green here, they can push this higher. Even when a lot of alts started to break down. I mean, like some of these broke down a lot today. You look at Cyber, pops off red, comes back in. I thought it had a shot here, but when Bitcoin dumped, it pulled everything down. Some did better than not. Recall at a major level, looks like it could make a big move here, and it might. It's got the setup. Pretty good setup right there. Theta was making a decent move. It came down, big inverse red, but this has already been moving. And others just look worse. They had so much potential here, but again, getting up off of red here, gets this red and just comes dumping back down. That's SHIB. PayPay had a lot of opportunity breaking this level, tried to move, just getting up off of reds. Best entry candle was back here. Entry at market, tight stop, nice move, right? Gets this red, dumps off that. It's been treacherous to get a move out of a lot of these things. Look at the slow grind higher. It's just disgusting. There's a setup there, it gets a big day, doesn't last more than like 30 hours or so before it comes all the way back. And it's just this nasty slow grind higher. Just disgusting behavior out of some of these assets. While other assets have done great. ZEC had this nice setup, doesn't even really need to go sideways, just keeps going. Dash, I think, made big moves. There's a lot of coins, even random coins like Buttcoin, right? I hate that they have this exchange on here, Polynex. It's like, dude, their data comes up screwed up all the time. And look at this. Nice channel, broken, nice move, entry there, big percentage movers, down off a green, might end up coming back up, huge level through there, we'll see. Bernie was a big mover. Can we get some correct data? I don't know, this is looking weird, but Bernie had like a big move. There's a bunch of cryptos out there that some are random, some are not, but even the big hitters like Solana, was coiling up and it ends up making a pretty good move. The entry was back here and it made a nice move. I think I got in around here. I think it was a call out somewhere in here, big move, So also getting to a trend line, also at moving averages on the monthly. ADA as well was very coiled up. It had a prettier entry right here on the break. Nice move up. Pretty nasty on how it did it. I mean, getting up off of red there, it pops off this inside hammer, right? Gets an inverse hammer, gets a inside hanging man, drops off that. It's been kind of gross, honestly, to the upside, this price action up here, right? But again, it had this setup. The measured move was slightly higher than where it got to so far. Could still make it, maybe not. And XRP has done pretty much nothing, right? It does have all this consolidation here. I thought it had a great chance yesterday to pop off this inside hammer here and see a move. The measured move would be much higher if we're going to consider this a symmetrical triangle. It would be, this maybe isn't perfect, but it would be close to 180. And when we look at XRP and what it's doing right now, it's got like a falling wedge type of structure, or if we want to view it like this, cup, handle, when could this thing maybe break out? And if we measure that as a cup and handle, the measured move is much higher. We're talking like $50 XRP. And I don't want to get into supply and demand, the flow or the market cap and all that shit. I just don't care, guys. I don't fucking care. I'm just showing you what this as a potential pattern is possibly showing if it played out, right? I'm not saying like it's realistic or not. I'm just telling you kind of what this, possible pattern shows. If we look at maybe like a 3-day, it possibly cleans it up a little bit better. Or if I just go over to like a different pair where I don't have as many trend lines drawn, you can kind of see. And even could this be a large ass cup in here and this is a handle forming and we're coming into this long-term trend line that's upward sloping amongst this potential trend line all the way back to 2017 to the low of 24 coming up there, right? Where even if we did drop, we could come down this area and get right back up and maybe work up, or maybe this falling wedge type of thing could take longer to play out into 27 or late 26 before getting up, hopefully just in time to get a green yearly candle to set up for a 27 move, right? If we don't get that green candle, yeah, it could still blast up out of nowhere for sure, right? Certainly possible, especially with like what we got going on pattern wise. But this looks to me like either a cup and handle there or a cup and handle here, right? That's what it looks like to me. But again, what do we need to see? Basically, with where we're at now, we need to see a move back up. Whether this is the cup line sloping up here or this is the cup line sloping down here, you need to get back up there, period, to even have the pattern mostly fully formed, right? Until then, it's all speculation, basically. So that's that. I mean, that's XRP, that's Bitcoin. And, you know, XRP is trying, but it had a red. I was hoping this was going to close green on the 3-day. It ended up closing red. It tried to pump off that. It broke the trend line, comes all the way back down. Okay, it's got a green 3. Can maybe keep going off that. It did get the green 3, but there's this inside red 2 there. It just has not been pretty. Even this candle starting the move was red. They couldn't even close it green. The regular view action like this has been actually pretty disgusting, whereas if you look at the 9 a.m. view, you had this nice pretty little green hammer down there that produced spectacular risk to reward ratio to the upside, right? This whole move basically got started by a nice little green daily hammer back here in 9 a.m. view. So regular view has been pretty disgusting. So I almost kind of understand why it did this today outside of Bitcoin dumping. And this was not just from CPI. People knew out there that are moving these charts that it was not going to be a good number, because this was already bleeding out all night long, way before the CPI number was released. So, and a bunch of cryptos were doing that. Gold was doing that. The Dow was doing, the indices were doing that. Oil was already trying to push up. The bond market was starting to fall out. Like, there were a bunch of different things. The bond market was set up for a drop already, right? And that's a really big deal. The bond market is a massive deal right now, guys. It's a huge deal right now. I honestly can't believe the stock market, the crypto market are even able to hold up right now with what the bond market is potentially doing right now, the massive level that it is taking out, right? If you got any kind of debt, credit card debt, you know, mortgage, whatever, and it's, you know, an adjustable rate. I mean, dude, it's just such a big deal with what we're seeing in the bond market, in my opinion. But this is where XRP's at. We know where Bitcoin's at. So and Bitcoin just needs to, it's either, in my opinion, gonna roll over here and like we're on our way back down maybe, or it's gonna set up here and this is kind of like a pennant type of situation and maybe see, you know, a next leg up. Is it going to come right back down since we got up off that red back down there? I didn't even think this was that pretty here. I thought this was kind of too, I called this out, but I didn't think it was just going to get up and go. I thought they were going to make it really hard in here first. And they have so far. I mean, we saw a nice run off that hammer, but then it was like immediately kind of get like a hanging man style type of candle. We dump off that. So we don't really have anything pretty. I was telling my subs we might see like a drop pop up here if it is going to squeeze. We're at a squeezing level. Like we've cleared this kind of channel, you know, depending on what pair you look at, but they're basically all the same. You know, we're above these two trend lines coming up. And you know, I mean, we're clearly above that, the channel that we got here. So, you know, this just really needs to set up, and it could be an inside green, maybe drop, pop, get up and squeeze and see a big move up. Like, it could happen. We could still see a big move up. The potential I see here is maybe in an inverted kind of head and shoulders, right? If we saw a big squeeze up to this like 95, 96, 97 area, then you're starting to see like a potential inverted head and shoulders, right? But with where the monthly is at and everything I just showed you, the fact that we have like this huge break here, and if I pull this thing over, I don't know how perfect I am, I might be a little bit high, something like that. and you see like where that is. Are we even going to make that around 85, 86? Or is this it? Have we topped here? Are we going to break down and start the process of moving down here, right? I'm not sure. I mean, right now it looks like we could potentially break down, but if they manage to hold this up or even put in a green, you could get a drop pop. And if you start moving up, you could see a giant squeeze through here and see one last move up or a big move up. It's all about what the candle situation is looking like at the close that day and the reopen, right? And then the future side is pretty much the same. It's kind of just as ugly, but maybe slightly better. It's got a 3-day kind of continuation hammer candle inside, kind of hammer type candle, continuation hammer doji candle that it could definitely get up off of, something like that. Same with the 2-day. It's got a green. It's trying to get back up off that, and there's your daily, but the daily was red. So if it did get up off that red daily, like tonight, tomorrow, that certainly isn't right. I'd be thinking that's going to lead to a top for sure, right? And on the future side, it really does look like we have a top trend line that we haven't even broken through. We have a bottom trend line, and normally I would call this a rising wedge because it looks like a rising wedge, but there's no touch in here, right? There's no touch in here, so I can't really call it a rising wedge, right? So far, this kind of just looks like it may end up being a pennant. It may decide to put in a squeeze here. And again, I don't know if it's going to be a massive squeeze, right? It may just be short-lived. We did get up off that red weekly, right? And those other pairings like USD, USDT, the 3 a.m. view, this is the 3-day in the future side. But if you look in regular view USD pair, it's a red inverse hammer doji. Against a red, like it's just not really right for a drop. And I don't even how does this gap up? Like, what is this, a USD pair? Doesn't make any sense. It's not a futures pair. I don't know what this is showing me with that. So this is actually how it should look, right? And to me, that just, this is showing me, hey, like there's a really good chance we could drop here with this candle, right? I don't like that we didn't go higher. I wish we would have gone higher first and then came back down. I wish this candle was like sitting up here. It would give me a lot more confidence that we were really going to break down. But the fact that we've been grinding higher for a while, we get up off this red, we pump off this red, we come back down. We're starting to initially pump with a pretty flat bottom 3-day candle that just opened up. You know what I mean? To me, that's pretty good odds you could come right back down. Is that going to start the dump back down? Maybe, you know what I mean? Maybe. I'd like to see this thing. If it is, I'd like to see Bitcoin really work down below the moving averages here, right? Because it's going to have to pull the 8 and the 10 over like this and down through the 20, which is just basically with my trend line up right now, right? But to get below these, maybe set up in here, right? And maybe that's going to probably correlate with the new weekly close, something like that. That's if that happens. Not saying it's going to for sure happen, right? There's your 2-day. It was almost a bearish engulfing. And it's not just a single candle. It's like we worked up here first. There's a second time, right? Looks like it could break down from this area. You know what I mean? It definitely does. On the 2-day on here on USD pair, look, we clearly have a divergence, a momentum divergence. You can clearly see that. As we've gone higher, we've gone lower highs on the MACD. And these are not standard inputs on the MACD. I use good inputs on the MACD. So I know it's right. And we're dead flat on the bottom of the current 2-day. We got the 3-day, 2-day close today. There's a good chance this thing could end up dropping here, right? And it's got a wedgy look to it, even though I can't technically call it a rising wedge. It has a rising wedge look to it. There's no touch in here. There's no zigzag up. I can't really call it a rising wedge, but you can see it, right? And then we zoom into the daily and it's really just kind of chopping sideways still, but this looks sketch. It's not somewhere where I'm like, oh, I gotta be long right now. No fucking way. You know what I mean? For some of the alts I called yesterday, we were hoping XRP was going to see a move. Really should have called it an entry at the break of the high of the candle because XRP couldn't even give us that. Some of the other ones did well, like Theta, API 3, Recall. Those ones all did pretty well, right? We were able to partial out a lot of those for a 1-to-1 really quick. But XRP was just a turd. It didn't even break the daily high. Just absolute dog shit per usual, right? Until it's not, which is rare. 5, 6, 7 years for what? For what? It's disgusting. So that's where we're at. I would say, if I'm a bull, like, it's just a risky ass area to get in long. And even in here, it's been pretty butt ugly. I like that. I think I probably called that out. There was potential here on the break of a high, but it was just it looked so tired here, and you had the divergence. There's really nothing there. Maybe a quick play here, but you already know the MACD is rolling over, so it's risky. There's maybe a short there. Look at how choppy it gets in here. And then in 9 a.m. view here, we had a green hammer that looked pretty, but I was just too scared to call it because I didn't like what I was potentially seeing here with like a potential kind of head and shoulder situation. But I should have called it. I'm definitely kicking myself for not. And I think there may have been some alts in here like Solana, ADA. There were some other alts I called. We had some spectacular moves, ADA, Solana. I think like Bohm, Brett, Bonk, that I don't know if I officially called them. I put on the trades. There were other things that I called out though that saw good moves. And then we had this little green. I called that on Bitcoin. Nice move for the size of that candle. I think I may have called a couple others, but that was a nice move. And that's where we're at. There's no trades now outside of a couple others that are not crypto, but that's it. That is the crypto market, in a nutshell, current day. But this is sketch. I mean, we're right at a trend line. We've got a divergence. We've got just a lack of momentum in general. And we've been grinding higher for a while with some of the most disgusting price action I've ever seen in my 20 years trading. All of this is just dog shit. Just horrible. Like everything about it, there's certain points where I like, right? Like I like that candle. I don't mind this candle, but it's so far up there I can't really touch it. This is a little bit better, but it's so short-lived. There's definitely like a 2-to-1 or a 3-to-1 in there on that. This one, like, I just don't really like it that much. The 9 a.m. view looked a lot better, but I was just nervous at that point. It just felt so tired, so long in the tooth, but it ended up going. Put it inside inverted red hammer doji and it even squeezed through that, and they pull it back up here. They get this red hammer, and I called that at that point, and we saw a nice move for the size of that thing. Easily a 1-to-1, 2-to-1, maybe a 3-to-1, probably a 2-to-1, maybe just over a 2-to-1. But it's just been struggling up here. So could do a little pennant thing up here. If we do get through this, there could potentially be a big squeeze through here, right? You can see why that would be the case. Obviously, like that's not a debate. That's fact. The fact that we're at this trend line, and if we bust through here, there could potentially be a big squeeze. If it's off the wrong color candle, it doesn't really look right, could squeeze, could come back, maybe get a green, then maybe move higher, or just exhaust, and it's like right back down. Then we get a setup down here, and then maybe we dump, right? You just got to be ready for it. You got to be willing to flow. It's like going back here. It's like when you zoom in on the daily, there's an entry here. There's like maybe short there if you want to take a riskier trade. I don't like any of this. I like that short there, maybe even this short here, but definitely that one there. It dumps. I like that. And I didn't like this on Bitcoin, but every other single crypto had it, and we already had the 3-week candle. So, it is what it is, and it dumped, right? And there's plays in here, there's candles in here along the way. They weren't super pretty or anything. There's a couple there, one there, maybe that back there. Like there are plays in here, that one there. But a lot of it was kind of short-lived. It's been short-lived. It's been hard to get like more than like a day or two in one direction, right? So yeah, it's been kind of annoying, right? Like you got to be very disciplined. Unless you're just buying the 8 exponential or 10 simple on like your first or second pullback, like then there's great risk to reward, right? But typically I like to like see a nice looking candle. Like that's what I'd rather have, not just buy the 8 AMA and then play underneath them with a stop. Like ideally, like you get the right looking candle, you know what I mean? Something that's pretty, right? And a bunch of cryptos trade pretty well. I mean, even if we go over to Ethereum, like you can see back here, like we had this monster trend line through here, and even this one up here, this breakdown from here, and it's not too bad. I mean, it's probably a lot prettier than Bitcoin, at least some of the times. Like you get a double top, there's an inverse red, it dumps off that little inside red. The risk to reward on that is phenomenal. They try and pull a scumbag behavior, stopping out people before they dump it, but they still give you this nice tiny little red. Like the risk to reward on that red for this entire move is just through the fucking roof, Phenomenal for breaking that trend line there. But the fact they break this trend line, they bring it back up, I'm just like, dude, like who in their right mind is buying this right here? Like that to me is intentional. You're trying to clear stops, And it just goes back to what I was saying. Like, I don't know how you could have lived through this last like 6 months of time or whatever. Like if we go back to 1010 and you see what they did and how a lot of these, I knew a bunch of cryptos were rock bottom. Like I knew if they dropped, it could be very, very bad. But they turned off the exchanges. Like they were just like, oh, our exchange is down. Oh, really? You are. You're all fucking down at the exact moment. We can't get into our accounts. We can't get out of trades. Really? Like I was lucky to even have my trade or have my account, right? I had hedges on that saved my account at that moment, right? I was really lucky because I couldn't get in. I couldn't get out of anything, right? So, and of course, like rebounded and I'm much higher now, like obviously, right? But it was fucking scary, dude. And like, I feel like I talk about it way more than anybody else does. Like it's totally not okay what happened, And I'm not asking for a problem reaction solution, but I'm just telling you, it's not fucking okay what happened, I don't need the government to just come in and say, oh, we got a KYC or do this, and then we lose our ability to have margin and these exchanges try and kick us off. You know what I mean? So we can't manage our risk that well, right? Meanwhile, these fuckers are probably inside trading, like literally placing trades before news comes out. They all know what the hell is going on, what they're doing. Like we're stuck with reading price action, seeing the big money move before moves happen, right? Big money moves, they set it up. That's what I'm looking for in the chart. Supply and demand, that's what we're reading in the chart, right? I don't care who's in control. You still see the supply and demand in the chart, So that's what we're doing, but these fuckers know ahead of time. Like it's dead obvious. It's dead obvious, right? It's a damn clown show in the entire crypto space. There's so much about it that just makes me sick. They're trying to push us into Coinbase. Coinbase was just down for hours. Couldn't get in there. They don't even have the right order types. They don't have a stop sell market or stop buy market. And before you're like, yeah, they do, Max. No, they fucking don't. I'm saying, listen to what I'm saying. Like I said earlier, stop buy or stop sell market, not stop loss. That means if you want to sell short, you have an order sitting there. As soon as this drops and tags the price, it sells you short. They do not fucking offer that. Not even on their future side, unless they suddenly added it over the past few months, which I highly doubt, because it's ran by a fucking clown, right? And same on the upside. There's no buy, stop buy market order types, right? Kraken has it, thank God, right? And a lot of the other exchanges have it, but we lost access to some of those exchanges as a U.S. citizen when the government forced KYC, right? They fucked us over. We lost our margin ability. We couldn't really short things, right? Now there are futures contracts for some crypto assets. For some, we can trade futures, which is better anyways for tax purposes. And typically they're more liquid, but not always, right? Typically they are if they're on CME and you know what I mean, but on some of these other crypto exchanges where they're futures, right? But they're not CME maybe or whatever, like they're not always so liquid on a lot of these assets. So there's a ton of slippage sometimes. You gotta be really careful and know what you're doing. But still, it's like they force KYC, it's like, dude, it's just a clown show. Like there's nothing pro crypto in this whole fucking country, dude, It was really hard to even get margin. Coinbase offered like 3x margin, but it was only in certain states. you know. Like California was not one of them, and California is supposed to be very pro crypto. No, they're fucking not. Why are we not one of the exchanges on the Coinbase list for 3x leverage? Unless it's changed recently, right? Yeah, we have a stadium downtown that's Crypto.com stadium. I think Crypto.com was going to drop US clientele because of KYC. It doesn't make any fucking sense. It's a circus. Even Ripple, everything going on in the crypto space. Unless you're a trader, you're just a trader. You are adding liquidity to the market. You're a real person. You're not a trading bot, unless you have a trading bot. But if you're a real trader, you are adding liquidity to the market. You are net positive being a participant in the market. Everything else, crypto related, I don't care what company it is, what exchange it is, there is clownery in everything. Even Kraken. Some of their charts are like not populating for me at the reopen and shit on my mobile device, right? Maybe on the computer, but not on my phone. I'm not always in front of my computer at the open, you know, for the derivatives of the future side, right? Fix your shit. Just run your fucking company correctly. I'm not asking for much. Just run the shit correctly so I can do my job, right? Or do you need me to come run it for you? It's fucking insane, dude. Every single exchange, every single company in this space, you know, some are obviously a lot worse. Kraken is at the top of my list as one of the best options in the United States. Obviously, they have the right order types. They have the stop sell. They have the stop buy. They just classify it as a stop loss order, right? So you can place it and get in on a break, right? And they even have the option of placing a conditional order. So as soon as you get stopped in, it places your stop loss on the spot side. They haven't done it on the future side. I don't know why the fuck not. It's risk aversion, right? I don't know why they haven't done that. Why? Because it's a clown show. You know what I mean? The whole space is a clown show. These people running the exchanges, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. They're absolute children, dude. There's no other excuse, right? It's not like this is new. They're not new exchanges. Like, these order types have been around forever. You go to TD Ameritrade or what is now Schwab, you know, or whatever. E-Trade, whatever. Like, these are common order types, you know. Usually you have a trading DOM. You just click. It's like the order is there waiting to be triggered as a stop sell, stop buy, market order type. Or stop limit, you know, if you want to short and only accept a certain price to the downside or whatever, stuff like that, right? But it's no different. Like, these are just common stuff, guys. It's common stuff. So, you know, Ethereum, a little bit prettier with the candles back here than Bitcoin was, at least right there, right? And even in here along the way, you know, bigger risk to reward and stuff like that, and different cryptos did better here and in different spots, but it's been pretty ugly on the way up here. Decent entry there, comes all the way back, manages to hold that low, maybe not that one, damn close, pumps off a red again, just disgusting, comes all the way back, inside green, pumps off that, dumps off the green, gets a little inside green, pumps off that, comes all the way back, little hammer, pump, dump, little inside green, just slow grind higher, just getting sold every time it gets up, inverse red, dumps off that, little green hammer, tries to pump out of that, you know, Bitcoin dumps, Ethereum dumps, red dumps off that, and that's where we're at. It has not been pretty, guys, out there. There have been some assets, like I said, Solana, ADA, others that have done much better very recently, but you can see like Ethereum's been pathetic, XRP's been pretty pathetic, you know, a lot of things have been pretty pathetic, but some have actually seen some decent moves of recent, and there have been trades along the way. But that's where we're at. Ethereum is just messy, right? In general, you can see it's kind of the trajectory of like a bear flag or a channel, kind of, right? But it's been pretty ugly. Right now, I mean, maybe it could go into a symmetrical. We've got, you know, kind of like a imperfect trend line in this area right here coming up. You know, we did kind of have like a channel here that I was trying to respect. You know what I mean? It's just not really perfect. You know, it's not really pretty. I don't even want to draw that. This trend line from here to here, okay, I guess I'll just leave it. You know, we kind of have like a level in here, I guess. You know what I mean? You can see that. It looks kind of like a descending wedge more than anything. You know, we might just barely get away with calling it a symmetrical. but it's really kind of like a more of a descending wedge than I think anything, almost flat. They're just not really pretty. I mean, this price action has not been pretty. There's definitely money to be made. I mean, that green hammer, that red inverse, like there's money to be made, but it's just so short-lived. It's just been really ugly. Definitely kind of coiling in here. You can see that, but it really does look like this thing is starting to roll over. Ethereum's been one of the weakest assets out there. Almost kind of looks like a cup and handle when you think about it like that. Again, like preferably you get a decent candle, right, to work with to get up higher off of if it is going to go higher here. And you do a top-down approach. You start from like the higher time frame and you work your way down, right? Dropped off a green too, but it really does look like it's rolling over. Pop off red, come back down, inverse hammer, doesn't look good. Flat bottom coming up, 8 and the 10 have rolled over, right? Could this drop more out of there? Doesn't really look that good to me either way. There's your weekly, right? Drops off a green, trying to get up. That's definitely probably more bullish to me, kind of high base-ish, might be able to get back up, pretty flat on the top. It's just ugly, man. It's just ugly. I mean, a 2-week, okay, maybe it could pump off that at least temporarily, maybe. Same with the 3-week, might be able to pump off that at least temporarily coming in the moving averages. I don't even know about that, but it does. It's inside green. You'd think it might be able to do that. Dead flat on the bottom of the monthly, like pretty much all the other cryptos out there, trying to come into the 8-10 after this drop. I mean, dude, it's just like a bear pullback. Even look at the volume. You know what I mean? So far. It just doesn't look good from like a bullish perspective. It looks more bearish when you look at the monthly. There's no debate about it. I don't know how anybody could argue that. So anyways, guys, long video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you want to subscribe, basically I'm just like searching for really good looking candles to do a call out on every day. It's not just crypto. I cover basically all other assets, futures for everything, bonds, metals, currencies, the indices, whatever. It just needs to look right. And if you want to subscribe, just head over to Signal Bar Method, at Signal Bar Method. My course is right here. The daily crypto call out subscription is here. If you subscribe, just shoot me a message on here or tweet out to me, make a post out to me, whatever. When you sign up, I think it says to shoot me an email because I have to add you to the private Twitter page, right? And again, I'm not perfect. Like I can't read the damn future, but I'm right most of the time. And when I'm right, you're gonna know. There's a way I kind of post when it looks really, really good. There's a way I post when it looks good, And you're going to know when it looks really, 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 really good because I'm probably going to be doing a bunch of videos and stuff. Like you're going to know, right? I make it blatantly obvious when it looks extremely, extremely good. And when it looks extremely, extremely good, that's typically when we can get some really, really big moves, right? Really good risk to reward ratios for max profit potential. Kind of like these in here, right? So that's it. Hopefully that helps. It'll be really interesting to see what the crypto market does with the bond market kind of falling out, and just Bitcoin being up here. I mean, it does kind of look like it's trying to do a pennant up here. It's kind of amazing how far this daily has even come up right now, but I know what the 3-day looks like. I know what the 2-day looks like. Like this is just not pretty. I know we're above this trend line. I know like there's potential for a squeeze out of here, but we did just get up off of red weekly. So is it going to be short-lived or is it going to see a big move? Like the best thing you can basically do is just trail it. If you do get the setup, if you do get the move, you trail it, you partial out on the way, and you see what it can do. But I know what's happened. I know there's possibility that even if we move here, it's going to be coming right back down. It could be on our way back down at that point. If we even get up here, right? If this starts to break down here or gets a good setup or just starts to break down here quick, right? It could dump, could come back down somehow. The weeklies are not really so obviously showing that, right? So I'm not fully expecting that. Right? I need some kind of daily situation that I'm like, okay, like this looks pretty obvious, like we're going this way or that way, right? or even in the moment, if it's like a drop off a green, pumping back up. Like there's certain situations where, I might have to do a call out in the moment, or we have the candle at the close. It's, just depends. So, we'll see what we get. I think it's a very interesting point. I've told my subs there's really no in between here. Either it's should or could be a big move up, or it's going to dump here. Like it's probably going to be one or the other. I guess with that weekly and knowing that on the monthly, like we're coming into the 8 and the 10 up here, like we're basically at it here and the 10's just above, and we have this trend line coming across on this big break from back here, that if we do get up, knowing that weekly got up off the red, like it could be short-lived. I would expect something to the upside if we do really move here, right? But it could be short-lived. And it's been just such a grind to get up here that it just makes it so hard for me to believe that, we're going to see like a big monster squeeze here. It just makes it so hard to believe. Like, I want to believe that this is going to like roll over and dump here. You know what I mean? It's been such a grind to get up here. And it's been so ugly on the way up. It's really like a monthly pullback to me. So it'll be interesting to see what we get. If anything, if you're just trading Bitcoin, like this is really probably a short at market with a stop there. This was a long at market, stop there, stop there, stop there. Hopefully you catch a 2-to-1, 3-to-1, 4-to-1, whatever that was on some of it. Maybe a short there, stop there. You catch some in there. It's a tight stop. Easily a 1-to-1, 2-to-1, 3-to-1 in there. But just very, very choppy. And we'll see what we get out of here. Hopefully that helps, guys. If you're interested in subscribing, taking the course, you know how to find it again. And I will talk to you later. Thanks, everyone.